Hello, Year 11. It's Mr. Green here. Hope you guys are all well. I'm really excited today to be able to talk to you about A-level media and why it might be a good choice for you guys for one of your A-levels. Now, just before I launch into it, I just want you to have a little look at this, these two images I've got here. Okay, so I've got one from the Daily Mirror and one from the Sun. And if you just take a moment just to look at those, they're following the Brexit vote 2 years ago, so they were both published the morning after. And my question to you is, which one's the truth? Which one represents the truth? Now, in media, the idea is that they both do and they both don't. It all depends on things like people's political persuasions. It depends on representation. It depends on the political stance of the newspapers. It depends on the audience and the way the audience read it and what they want to hear. And this is kind of the crux, really, of what media is. It's all about the way that events and life and people are represented to us and the way we interpret the things that we see. So I'm going to go into a little bit more detail now so you can sort of see the sorts of things that we do. Okay, so some reasons why A-level media might be a good choice for you. In my opinion, obviously I'm biased, but it's a good choice. It's a very modern subject in the sense that we deal with the history of the media, but we are always kind of responding to things that are happening currently. Just a couple of weeks ago with my Year 12s, we were studying Raheem Sterling and Harry Maguire and their treatments in the media, looking at sort of racial representations. So it's great in the sense that you're always looking at things that are happening as and when they do, and you can compare it to some of the set texts that we've got, which I'll talk about in a moment. It's great for developing analytical skills. Universities love media because it shows that you're able to interpret visual media in kind of a very detailed way. It is not an easy subject. I think there's a common misconception that it's easy. It really isn't. There's a lot of theory, a lot of analysis. It's quite a complex subject, but it's enjoyable. There's also a good degree of creativity. I'll talk to you about the coursework in just a moment, but there is a chance to show what you can do from a creative point of view. If you studied media at GCSE previously, there are some similarities in the sense that you'll know what CSPs are, and you deal with CSPs in a similar fashion, but it's quite a bit different because you go into a lot more detail, and it's a lot more sort of analytical than your GCSE. And then if you've never done media before, then as long as you are good at writing and your analytical skills are good, so obviously your English skills, I'm thinking language and literature, as long as they are good, then you will thrive doing A-level media studies. So this is how the course is structured. So you do two-hour exams at the end of Year 13. Both of those exams will be split into two sections. Okay, so you'll be, in one of the papers, you'll be tested on media language and media representations. And then the other, it'll be industries and audiences, which I'll talk to you about more in just a moment. And as you can see, the exams make up 70% of your final grade. The other 30%, which is quite a decent percentage actually, is made up of your coursework. Okay, so you will have a choice of 6 briefs. They will be creative tasks, so things like creating an app or a short film or a radio broadcast, something along those lines, where you get given a basic brief and you have to interpret it and come up with something creative. So that's quite fun, and that's worth 30%, so just under a third of your grade. Now, across the exam, you will look at all of these different areas of the media. So we'll study TV, the film industry, we'll look at radio, newspapers, magazines, advertising and marketing, online social and participatory media, video games, and music videos. So anyone who has done GCSE media will be kind of familiar with that format. Anyone who hasn't, then hopefully you'll be in for a treat because you get to study something from all of these different areas of the media. Okay, as I alluded to earlier, in media studies, it's a little bit like English literature, for anyone who hasn't studied media before, where we get certain sort of text. So in English literature, you get a book, which obviously you then analyse in great detail. For us, it's a little bit different. A text might be something like a music video or a magazine front cover, and we have to learn about how they're constructed and how they create meaning. Okay, so for example, the television CSPs, Capital and Deutschland 83 are two of the texts that we study. Again, they might change by the time that you come round to sit in the subject, because they change every couple of years. Furthermore, we study the film industry. We look at independent film and the difference between independent films and major films, and how they're marketed, but also the kind of content that they deal with. We also look at radio. Obviously, radio is the oldest media format, if you like. So we look at a little bit of the history of radio. So looking at the War of the Worlds, which was quite a significant radio broadcast from way back when. And then looking at how that's developed into sort of more modern radio. We look at Apple Beats as well as BBC Radio 1. Again, we look at advertising. That's another set of set texts. We look at the history of advertising. As you can see, the advert on the right-hand side there. So we look at sort of the cultural context of early adverts and representations through to more modern adverts, such as the one on the left. And we also study music videos. So we look particularly here at racial representations. So we're looking at Billie Jean by Michael Jackson, and then a fantastic video called Letter to the Free by a guy called Common, an American rapper. We look at the content of the video, I guess, the way they're structured, but what they're kind of saying about society and politics and everything around that. Then there is newspapers. Okay, so again, this is building on anything that if you've done GCSE, this is building on anything that you've learned there. So we're looking at kind of political persuasions within newspapers. We're looking at how right-wing and left-wing newspapers kind of communicate their news and how they engage their audience. We also study magazines. Again, we look at this from the point of view of representation and class and gender representation, looking at stereotypes and looking at the impact on the audience. We also study video games, the rise of, and again, looking at the significance of video games, what audiences get from them, and again, how they use representations within those games kind of to create meaning. So for instance, looking at the development of Lara Croft as a character from Tomb Raider, for example, and looking at the way that particular character has changed over time, and then linking that back to changes within society. Okay, we also look at the history of online media, and again, make some comparisons and look at the way that they address the audience. Okay, so in media, there are four key areas, really. Everything that you do is kind of largely associated with these four areas. These are the four things that you need to know, which I referred to earlier, because you'll be tested on them in the exam. Okay, so what do these terms actually mean? Okay, so when we're talking about media industries, that's the large companies that produce the media. So people like BBC, ITV, Sky, Future Publishing, Microsoft, you name it, they're media industries. So anyone who provides us with the media is a media industry. Obviously, they're worth studying because in some respects, we're getting their version of the world whenever we buy one of their newspapers or buy one of their games or buy one of their magazines. Effectively, we're getting a little bit of their view of the world. So it's important that we understand what they are telling us. The second term is media language. And that's how the media, through their forms, codes, conventions, and techniques, communicate meaning. So media language will come naturally to you once you've done a term doing study in media. But that's basically just looking at how it's constructed, the significance of things like pictures, why that picture, why that font, why that color, Why have they put that there? Why have they cropped this image in this way? Okay, and so on and so forth. Representation is how the media portrays events, individuals, and social groups. And then finally, audiences. That's how we interpret and respond to the media itself, and how producers kind of influence us in the way that they do. Okay. So we're always looking at the context of media whenever we study any particular set text. So we might be looking at the historical context, which is basically, what was going on at the time that that particular set text was produced. So, for example, if it's Michael Jackson's Billie Jean, then we're looking at representations of race and what was going on in the 80s, for example. In terms of political context, again, it was what was going on in the world generally in terms of politics. So, for example, when we're looking at the Daily Mail and the Brexit vote, we're looking at, obviously, how the Daily Mail represented a particular aspect of the Brexit vote. Then lastly, social and cultural, and that's how the product reflects and is shaped by the society and the culture in which it was made. Okay, so what are the things that we value as a society at that time? So, for example, looking at magazines, and you might be focusing particularly on body image and how body image is a key thing for a lot of people in the 21st century. Okay, well, that's me done. I hope you guys have enjoyed this presentation. I hope it makes sense in terms of some of the things that we will be covering. We really look forward to seeing you in the sixth form in general. I really hope that you pick media. If you have any questions at all, then you can email me at greenj1@hattonacademy.org.uk. Thank you very much, and we look forward to seeing you in the sixth form.